Glad everybody could make it down for the 2025 state maintenance meeting. Hope y'all had a good trip down. We've got a hopefully entertaining and informative, agenda set up for y'all. But right now, I'll turn it over to Billy Owen, District 6 engineer, for the official welcome.
Thank you, Matt. It's my honor to welcome you all here to District 6, the 14 southeastern counties, and to be hosting the 2025 maintenance meeting. It looks like we have a great agenda. I hope that you all will enjoy some of the things that we have to offer here along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, some of our great local seafood, some of the beautiful sights and scenes down here. And Matt and Ms. Chandra ordered up perfect weather. May be a little humid, but it's not going to be too hot this week. So nice sea breeze all week. But I hope everybody gets a chance to fellowship with their peers and learn a lot from all the presentations. Your next speaker I'd like to introduce is a good friend of mine. He started in District 5. Worked in construction division for a long time, then served as the district engineer in District 3, and he's now our chief engineer. I'd like to introduce Mr. Ergelin.
Good afternoon, everybody. All right, thank you, Billy, for those welcome comments, and it's always a good thing to be here in your presence at the maintenance meeting. It's always a good opportunity to speak to some of what I consider to be some of the most important people at MDOT. The work that you do, I appreciate it. I know what you're doing, and without maintenance, you are really the true first responders. First responders that we consider as far as police, fire, they couldn't get to where they go without you guys first being out there to get roads open whenever there's something, some kind of issue or storm that has happened. So I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for the hard work you do out there. It's just a truly awesome job that you do. I had the privilege of, as Billy mentioned, being in District 3 to understand the maintenance world and just what true dedication there is out there. So many times through the night, you're coming back out after you've left work to come and fix something that's happened out on the road, and then sometimes getting called back out a second or third time at night. I mean, it's not easy. But I do want you to realize that we appreciate you. And this maintenance meeting is to highlight some of the things that we're doing across the state, some of the good things, some of the things that we want you to drill in on and maybe understand and take back to your district, your tie-up, so that you can do things a little bit better. It's always good to sit down with your peers and talk and conversate about some of the things that are going good with your department, your district, so that we can all be better for it. I would like to mention also from a safety standpoint, I need you to continue to watch out for your fellow men. That is so important. We're trying to make sure that we stay event and accident free. It takes everybody to be a part of that mission. It takes everybody from the maintenance tech 1 to your tech 2s all the way up through your moms to achieve that goal. So I need you to just continue to look out for new employees that are coming on board. They don't know the ropes yet. Don't take for granted that they do. Have your maintenance meetings, your meetings where you talk as a group. Continue to have those and explain the day's work on what's going to be going on so that they have an understanding on what to do. It's very important that we continue to try and keep that goal of keeping everything accident free. Just last week was our our Work Zone Awareness Week, where we highlighted that week as being a week for work zone awareness. We did have a fallen workers memorial for those who had already fallen, prior employees who had fallen by whatever it might be as far as an accident. So we don't want to add any new names to that list. On a different note, I would like to highlight some of the accomplishments since last year. We were able to have $148 million in IM projects bid last year. And IM is your interstate maintenance projects, the ones that mainly focus on interstates, where they come out of maintenance division, they do a ride and evaluate the roads. $148 million of those projects were let last year. $150 million in state capacity and lottery projects was let, and another $690 million in federal construction, which includes CNI and state forces, pavement, bridge, and safety projects. So what I'm trying to say is last year was the largest construction project bid or lettings that we had ever. Thanks to a lot of people in this room by doing your job in such a way that it's given confidence to some of those lawmakers to be able to give additional funds and give us the benefit of the doubt, if you will, to make sure that our roads continue to be some of the best in the nation. I take pride in that. I take a lot of pride in everything that you do, because it's not just that project that we're trying to do. It's got to be, it starts from the ground up. It starts from each and every one of you doing your job in such a way that it projects that confidence to get us going in the next phase. As I've learned, maintenance feeds construction. Construction is what a lot of results of when maintenance has gotten to a point on the road where we can't really do it in-house anymore. So what you guys are doing, I think you're doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate you so very much. I would like to also start my close by acknowledging the district engineers that are here. If you would, district engineers, would you please stand? Thank you. We have Billy, those of you who don't know, Billy, District 6, Matt Dunn, he's in District 1, Albert White, he's in District 7, and Mitch just stood up in District 2. Mitch, please remain standing. And got Andy McNair all the way in the back, he's District 3. And Neil, he couldn't be here today from District 5. I would like to say a few words to Mitch. Mitch is going to be retiring, and Mitch, I do want to say from the bottom of my heart, and the time that I've got a chance to work with you, that you've done a great and fantastic job, and I wish you all the best in your retirement. At this time, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, which will be Commissioner Simmons. Commissioner Simmons is serving his second term as commissioner. Last year, he became chairman of the commission. He does a great job for MDOT, bringing a lot of leadership and wisdom to the commission, to where it's given us the ability to do some things that we haven't normally been able to do. As far as relationships go, it all takes everyone to be able to make MDOT work. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Simmons, if you will. Thank y'all.
Good afternoon. Hello? I'm gonna be up in about an hour if you don't act like. And then after that, you're gonna hear from other folks, so you'll be about 3 hours listening to us speak. Now, let me try it again. Hello? Hello. Okay. I will hurry up and sit down then. But Brad had told me when I walk up and say, watch the plywood. And I was walking up looking at the plywood, and I said, oh my God, I don't think I need to go up there. But anyway, it is a pleasure for me to come and be with you this afternoon. I am so excited about being a part of the MDOT family, which you are, and being here to meet with you all, the maintenance group, is truly good. You're in good hands with folks like Earl and Brad. They're always very concerned. You know, Brad, prior to coming for the Department of Transportation, he was in another position early on in life, and we asked him one day to see if he could help someone. Well, Brad go out of his way to help everybody. So he interviewed this person. They didn't do so well. And Brad said, well, you know, Willie recommended the guy, so we're going to see if we can help him. So he looked at the guy, he said, we want to ask you a couple verbal questions. How many seconds are there in a year? The guy say, 12. Brad looked at him and he said, well, we're trying to help you. He said, well, it's 12. January 2nd, February 2nd, March 2nd. And he went on. Brad said, okay, we'll give you another shot. How many days in the week start with the letter T? He said, 2. Brad said, good. Would you name them? Today and tomorrow. Brad said, I just don't know if I can get this guy where he needs to be, so let me just ask you another question. Do you know who assassinated President Kennedy? Guy looked at Brad and he started scratching his head and thinking. Brad said, hold up. Don't answer the question. Go home, think about it, come back and give me an answer. Guy goes home. Wife meets him at the door, says, sweetheart, did you get the job? He said, yes. She said, well, how much are you going to be making? He said, I don't know. Where your office going to be located? He said, I don't know. She said, well, how do you know you got the job? He said, hell, they got me investigating the murder case. Thank you all so much for what you do. The maintenance, the maintenance department is crucial to what we do. And I stand today and bring greetings to you from the other two commissioners, Commissioner Caldwell and Commissioner Busby. And we are so excited about being in the position that we're in to help lead this organization and take you where you need to go, we need to go. But having an individual like Brad White and Earl and Jeff and all leading this organization, and you, the 2,600 or so employees, and especially you, the maintenance department, because you are really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. It is you who are in a position whenever we have emergency that you are out responding and being away from your family. It is you when we have a need to go out and take care of a project as a result of some disaster or something taking place. It's you who are there. But in addition to that, as we give thanks to our state legislature for finally giving us some recurring dollars, and that bill has been signed into law, referring to as House Bill 1 by the governor, that's going to create more work because we have more dollars. Thanks to the federal government for the money that has come down over the past 4 years. We are in a position now when you're driving our highways, we have you out working and or contractors all over the place. It means a lot to me as a commissioner when individuals are able to call us and say, we want to thank you all for delaying us a little bit because we understand that with all of the work that you're doing, whether it be on Highway 90 or Highway 49 or Highway 27 or Highway 45 or whatever highway it may be, we have you out working and making a difference. And the citizens really do appreciate that. So as commissioner, as one of the commissioners, I am so grateful to you and wanted to just come just for a second to say thank you for what you do and let you know how much we, the commissioners, and the leadership with the Department of Transportation appreciate you, and also how much the citizen appreciates you. You may not hear from them because They do get a little agitated, aggravated, frustrated, whatever you want to call it. Sometime when you pull up and we have traffic control and they got to stop and being delayed to get them where they want to, but they really do appreciate the difference in the work that they see coming out of the Department of Transportation. And the maintenance department, you are key in making that happen. So once again, let me just say how much I appreciate and thank each of you. And please give our love from the commissioners and Brad and the leadership. Give our love and appreciation to your family members for supporting you as you go out into our highways and byways and do the work that you do. Thank you and continue to do a great job. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner. One thing before we move on, just a reminder to put your phones on silent. And I realize business still goes on even though we're in this room, so I know some of you will have to take phone calls. If you have to, please, if you don't mind, step outside and take those. All right, next up, we've got our director, Brad White. I've asked Brad to come and share a little bit about the state of MDOT. He will also introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioner Hall had this saying that it's a poor frog that doesn't croak about his own pond. And so I want to take a minute to brag on our folks. It's the highlight of my career to be able to have come back to MDOT a second time and serve as your director. And the reason that I was excited about coming back and having that opportunity was because of the memories I had the first time I worked at MDOT that related to how good the people were. I was a young guy in my 20s. At that time, I was on the 10th floor then, and being around individuals that had spent 30 to 40 plus years within this agency who had a care for one another, a desire to help one another, to celebrate everybody's victories and to be with one another when the chips were down. And the exposure I had to that and how much pride they took in their work, recognizing that this agency, unique to MDOT, is that the things that we work on kind of serve as lasting legacy items that you can point to throughout the rest of your life or your family's life to know that you participated in something that delivered a product to the people of Mississippi that made the lives of the people of Mississippi better, whether that be through economic development, whether that be through their own personal lives and their ability to get from A to B. But the memory of all of that is what made it so special to come back to MDOT and to be again a part of a team. Because make no mistake about it, what we do is a team sport. And I'm really proud of our team. Commissioner Simmons, I can't say enough good things about him. I think that we show the rest of the state that when people come together and that they're committed to doing right by the taxpayers of this state, that it doesn't matter what your party affiliation is or any other category that we would try to put one another in, that when your heart's right and you're focusing on a common goal, that adults are able to come together and work together to make sure that we do right by the people that we're here to serve. When they made me director, I'd never been through an engineering school. So it was very clear to me up front that more so than any other time, maybe in the agency's history, if I was going to be director, we had to have a first-rate chief engineer. And we've got one in Earl Glenn. A man that is not just a good engineer, but he's a fine fella. And it's a pleasure to come to work with him every day. Jeff Ely, that serves as chief of staff, works in my office, helps me manage the agency, helps me make sure that we're making decisions that hopefully not only benefit Mississippi, but benefit all of you and your colleagues around the state, and we're doing right by our team members. He does a phenomenal job. Lisa Hancock, her main goal is to keep me out of prison, and all the people on the admin side do a really good job of doing that, and it takes that network together. But I'm especially proud too, since this is a maintenance conference, to mention Ms. Janie Bass, new assistant chief engineer that oversees this area, Matt Dugas, new state maintenance engineer, both of whom are doing a phenomenal job. And I think will be making some changes and moving us in a more positive direction, even within our maintenance world. And so I appreciate the team of people that make up MDOT, the district engineers and everybody. Thank you for what you do. As far as the state of MDOT, when I was hired 4 years ago, the commission set out just a few objectives that we felt like we needed to hit. One was repairing the relationship we had as an agency with our political leadership, whether that be the congressional delegation, the legislative leadership, the governor's office, and other executive offices around. Two, money for our projects. If we don't have the right tools and resources to carry out our mission, there's not a whole lot that we can do. And then finally, and most importantly, was money for our people, because it had been years and years since salaries had been adjusted in a major way, and that was seen within the agency because we had lost a lot of people. We had hemorrhaged a lot of employees that maybe wanted to stay with the department but just weren't able to do that and be able to provide for their family in the way that they wanted to do. And so that was a major component of something that we wanted to do. And I'm proud to say that now 4 years later, due to working together and due to this team effort that I've talked about, that we've been able to make strides in those areas. I believe that this agency is very well respected now in the halls of our capital. I believe that the elected leadership takes us seriously and that they recognize that what you and your colleagues do every day is perform and provide for a core function of government. And the reason, and Earl touched on this, but I want to make sure that you understand it, the reason we were able to fix those relationships is because we were able to take the work that y'all do and your colleagues carry out every day, and we were able to go and showcase that to our leadership. Without what you do every day, none of us would have any type of currency with which to go over there and transact business. So you're the ones that give us the credibility necessary to go over there and try to get the other objectives that I mentioned. I'm real pleased with the fact that every session, the last 3 or 4 sessions, they've increased our budget in some manner or way. Through supplemental funds, the last 3 years, 3 sessions, they've given us money that's allowed us to move on big capacity projects. They've given us money that's allowed us to escalate some of the maintenance and paving needs around the state. They provided for the extra funds necessary for us to draw down additional federal money that was made available. So I believe that we've made strides in trying to get the resources necessary to carry out our work. And then this year, as Commissioner Simmons mentioned, they did something that a lot of people thought would never be done, and that was that they adjusted the fuel tax and put an inflationary component in that was left out back in 1987. To give you something to think about, put that in perspective, I was 10 years old the last time they adjusted our funding model. And you can tell by looking at me that was quite some time ago. But then finally, we went to work to try to get money for our employees. When we sat down the first time to look at this, and we realized, especially in our maintenance forces, what some of our people were making, it was nothing short of a sin. And so we went to work with the State Personnel Board to try to convince them that they had the markets wrong and that they needed to make some adjustments within their own formula that would then free us up to be able to start making some meaningful change within the agency. We were successful in being able to convince them of that, and so starting in February of '22, we began trying to move salaries, and I believe we've had about 4 realignments in that time, with plans of doing another one in July, and try to provide for our MDOT family, if you will, in a way that makes you enjoy coming to work. You know, when I graduated high school, some of you may have heard this story. I was at my grandparents' house. My grandmother was telling me, you find what makes you happy and you go do that. Money's not everything. Money will not make you happy. You go find what makes you happy and you do that. And my grandfather was sitting in his recliner reading the newspaper, and I really didn't think he was paying attention to what was being said. Well, as soon as Mama left the room and walked out, he put his paper down, and he made sure she was out of earshot, and he said, son, your grandmother's telling you the truth. Money won't make you happy, but the lack of it will damn sure make you miserable. So you better find you some way to provide for your family and be able to enjoy life. And so that's the same thing that we want for ourselves, and it's what we want for y'all, and we look forward to trying to continue making meaningful yet purposeful and responsible movements in that direction. Where do we find ourselves now? This was a good session, I think, for us, short of the fact that we didn't get a budget. But we did have our funding model adjusted, and for that we're very grateful. It's not unusual for the legislature to sine die without all of the budgets taken care of. It's happened in the past, and it's happened in the past with MDOT. I will tell you, this is the first time in the 30-plus years that I've followed politics that I've ever seen the legislature leave with no budget done. Some of the agencies have deficit appropriations, meaning they're about to run out of money before they get to July. Thankful to our team, Lisa Shop and everybody, we're not one of those agencies. But because of that, I do believe the governor will call a special session back sooner rather than later, because there's some critical needs that have to be taken care of in the next few weeks. But if we don't have a budget, by mid-May, we'll be sending notices out to our vendors and contractors and other people, letting them know we don't have a budget. If that stays the case, there would be stop work orders coming and no money available come July. Then come June, we'll be sending the actual notices out to that effect. We've alerted our leadership to this. Everyone has assured me that we will have a budget well in advance of these dates in June. And what do we expect from that? I think the worst case scenario that we will have is they will pass our budget, which will be all of the special funds, the fuel tax, all the special funds that make up what we've had as a budget. They will pass it in a lump sum. They'll pass it clean, free of earmarks, which is something we've worked hard to get the legislature away from. And again, that's because of our staff, that we've been able to show that if they would not earmark up our budget, that gives us the flexibility to play this shell game to where we're maximizing all of the available federal dollars that we can bring into the state for the purposes of our mission and what we're trying to carry out. So I do believe that practice is now, thankfully, a thing of the past. So I do think they'll give us a clean budget. I think it'll be a lump sum. I think it'll be authority to do all of the use of special funds, and I think they'll have the authority in there for us to continue adjusting salaries and moving with projects. The question that's on the table for me now is the supplemental funds. Starting 3 sessions ago, they began giving us additional money outside of the special funds through what's called capital expense funds. They end up appropriating from the surplus money into an account that's housed at DFA. From that account, they pay out any kind of one-time expenditures that they want. And so it's from that money that they've given us in the past that we would let large projects like Highway 15 in Tippah County, 49 here in Harrison County, and others throughout the other parts of the state. It's also in that money that the ARPA funds were made available to escalate paving projects. And one year they gave us a lump sum for paving projects back 3 years ago. That's the money that they give us for the match, ERBR, our multimodal program, and any other special projects. They're having a big disagreement now over whether or not that money will be on the table to use. And if no agreement's reached, then I can see a scenario where that money's not made available to us. And we've communicated to them that without the $40 million for the match, that would, by law, require us to go into lottery funds to start moving money toward the leveraging of federal funds. And so you could see some negative impacts to our budget if there's not an agreement reached that deals with everything from a standpoint of common sense and reasonableness. It's really a popular thing, and you'll hear it in campaigns for years about how government should be run like a business. And I agree with that to an extent, but the fact of the matter is government's not a business. We operate under different rules. And so it's important for our elected leaders to be able to sit at a table as adults and be able to work through this in a business-like way, but recognizing the different triggers that exist within each budget. Our budget's different from the Department of Mental Health. That budget's different from the Department of Corrections. And so they do have their work cut out for them, but I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, we'll enter July 1 with a clean budget, with the necessary supplemental funds for us to continue the work that we've got scheduled, with the additional revenue coming in from the increase in the fuel tax, and then also with the authority for us to continue moving salaries in a way to build a stronger Department of Transportation. And in closing, and before I introduce our speaker, I want to make one more comment, particularly since this is our maintenance forces, a maintenance conference. Earl talked about first responders, and it is my belief, while it is a team sport and all of our employees are important, that the maintenance forces of the Department of Transportation, y'all are the heartbeat of our agency. Y'all are the ones that people see out on the road every day. Y'all are the ones that when bad weather comes, you leave your family at home, you leave your property that may have a tornado heading straight for it, or hurricane coming, or ice storm, and you get out to make sure that the people's transportation network is open and that the fire trucks and the ambulances, the other first responders are able to get through. It was 20 years ago this August that Hurricane Katrina hit the coast. And Governor Haley Barbour was on the MDOT podcast not long ago. And for those of you that watch it, you may have heard him tell this story. And it just made me beam with pride when he talked about that day, and he flew over and he said, you know, it looked like the hand of God had just wiped across the coast and just destroyed everything. But he said when the time came for everybody to move to South Mississippi and go to work at rebuilding the state, it was the MDOT maintenance crews that were the tip of the spear with bulldozers and chainsaws and other equipment opening up the roadways, and behind them were several hundred highway patrolmen, National Guardsmen, and other first responders. That makes me very proud to be a part of this agency, and I hope that that gives you a sense of pride in what you do, because what you do matters. It matters to the people of this state, and as I said earlier, you're leaving a legacy of which not just you, but your family can be very proud of what you did to contribute to a better Mississippi. Our speaker today is somebody that I have a great deal of respect for, and I'm very honored that he was willing to come and to speak to us. We talk a lot about the importance of partnerships here. We didn't get the fuel tax passed on our own. You had people at the Asphalt Association, the Road Builders Association, the Supervisors Association, the Mississippi Municipal League. There were a lot of folks that band together to make things happen, bring about the positive change that we're all proud of. And today's speaker is somebody that's a partner to this agency in more ways than you may recognize. Number one, through his businesses, I believe I can say with confidence, I'm not lying to you, that he's the highest. He pays more in fuel tax than anybody else in the whole state through his business, so he basically helps keep MDOT afloat in that sense. He owns a construction company, a trucking company. Transportation is very much an integral part of the Duff Brothers Capital Investment Group, of which Mr. Tommy Duff is the president. When my name was being circulated for executive director and I was being interviewed, he was kind enough to give me a few minutes of his time and gave me great insight into what I should be thinking about and what the needs of the department and the state would be. And I was absolutely amazed at how much he kept up with the intricacies of this agency and the state and what we're doing. His business has an annual budget of over $5.5 billion. In Mississippi, they employ over 6,000 people. I think it's about 10,000 nationwide. To put that in perspective, he employs MDOT's staff is about 2,700. Beyond that, he's a man with a great heart and has taken seriously the saying, to whom much is given, much is required, and he gives back to the communities in ways that I won't embarrass him by saying, but just rest assured, he is a builder in every sense of the word. So I hope that you will please help me welcome my friend and the friend of the Department of Transportation, Mr. Tommy Duff.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate this. I want you to know that Brad, quoted that and read it just like my mother wrote it. So I guess it was okay. I'm glad to visit with you today, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. When Brad called and asked me, it was frankly hard to turn down because of the good things that have been accomplished here. And I want you to know how proud I am of what the Mississippi Department of Transportation has done. I have seen it literally change in the last 4 to 5 years, and I'm so glad to see that. You know, when we talk about the Department of Transportation, I know how everybody looks at it as flashing lights or orange cones or things like that. But you've got to understand and appreciate what you do when you're out there in the cold, when you're out there in the heat, when it's bad weather, when you're accomplishing the things. Because I want to tell you, the future of our state resides and relies totally upon its transportation corridor. And whether it's administrative or whether it's actually doing the work or the engineers that are putting it all together, you are a vital component for the success of this state. In fact, I'll frankly say if this was not being run the way it is today, our state would suffer. And I mean that in all sincerity. I've grown up in the transportation business. I started out in high school pumping gas at my grandmother's store. And from there, I got advanced up to fixing tires at our little tire company. And then when I really got promoted in college, I got to wash trucks at our chip hauling company. So that's my background growing up, totally in transportation. And as we have been involved in business and have done things, you can see that transportation is a big part of what we do. And that's what I thought I would talk to you a little bit about. I'm from Columbia, Mississippi. I was raised there. I went to the University of Southern Mississippi. And I've always liked being involved with equipment and things like that. We have a tire business called Southern Tire Mart. And Southern Tire Mart, when I got into it, was a little company in Columbia that had about 6 employees, and we were trying to see if we were going to make it. I can remember the first year I never even took a paycheck because it wasn't available at that time. But it has grown and it has prospered and it has been so blessed by the good people that we have, and frankly from the good Lord who had to intervene several times, where today we have about 200 Southern Tire Marts throughout the country and have revenues of about $3.5 billion. So I come to you as a person that has been so blessed by membership and citizenship in this state and in this country. And we love that part of our business. My brother and I are very involved in our tire business. We also have a trucking company, and we have about 4,000 trucks. And Brad's right. I was glad to say, hey, we're in favor of that fuel increase. It's going to cost us $3 or $4 million a year, but uptime is more important than fuel cost. And as you build, and as you have better roads, as you have more bridges, as you have less congestion, things are better. So it's with pride that I wanted to support it because we need to have that. And how pleased I am to see what goes on in the state now, the reputation of the MDOT, how people have a greater respect and a greater appreciation for the good things that are happening. And I compliment the commissioners, I compliment those that are so important, Brad, but most of all, it's you. When people talk about our businesses, they'll brag on my brother and me, and I'll sit there and say, we're probably the least important people in the group. It's the ones that are out there every day doing the job, doing it without complaint. You know, when I listen to Will and Paul's podcast and stuff and going the extra mile, I've learned a lot. And I got to thinking, that's really the right way to be. It's one thing to go work and do as each of you to do, but it's something else to go do it with service and desire to make everything right. And that's doggone important. And I want to tell you, I appreciate what you do, and I'm not saying that because I'm standing up here today. It's very important. What you accomplish is the backbone of our state. And we see it, we drive on it, we work with it, and each of you are very important as promised in that. I want to tell you a little bit about what we do and what we don't do. In our tire business, we deal with heavy trucks. So we are very much involved in what goes on throughout this country. Our customers are the UPSs, the FedExes, the Amazons, the Swift transportations, the major fleets in this country. And the number one thing that they want to talk about is uptime. They've got to have roads and bridges where they can operate. Because when a truck's not moving, when a truck is down, when a truck is sitting and waiting, it's costing somebody a lot of money. And that's why it is so important that we have a state that emphasizes and believes in this. Because if we're going to be successful moving forward in Mississippi, we've got to have a transportation system that, bar none, is what it needs to be. And I like it. I like to see what's happening. I like to see that budget money is coming our way. I'm glad to know that this fuel tax will give extra monies to be able to accomplish these things, because we have a lot to do in this state, and we are very, very blessed about it. I'm grateful to be in the trucking business, except for the last year because it's been terrible, but trucking is important. We run the roads, we're a refrigerated trucker. We haul lettuce, fruits, pharmaceuticals, meat, and candy. That's kind of the things we do. And in our little niche in the refrigerated transportation business, we're probably about the largest. And it's headquartered in Jackson. KLLM is headquartered there. Our other company, Frozen Food Express, is headquartered in Dallas. And these are very important companies, particularly for our state, in order to keep Mississippi vibrant and to make sure that we're hauling and doing the things we need to do. So do we have a big involvement with DOT? Yes, we do. We certainly need to support it and make sure that we're doing everything we can do as citizens to be able to make that operate. I'll tell you a little bit about a third company we have. Some of you are aware that we own T.L. Wallace Construction. And it's been a great company. It's certainly been a learning experience, because working in that particular construction business of roads and bridges will teach you a lot. So we have learned a lot in that business. And I appreciate the way that y'all work with them, and frankly, the way that we work with DOT. It's made us a better company. A fourth business that we have that's kind of a new business for us is what I call Southern Tire Mart at Pilot. Pilot has about 700 travel centers through the country. And one of the things that we have learned, at least in my life, you know, with customers, you kind of need to be a reason to do business with you. And we tried to find those reasons. You've got to either be less than anybody, or better than anybody, more special than anybody else. And we've tried to do those things. But we started this company about 3 years ago, and we started looking at what truckers had problems with. If they've got a little tail light out or a brake or something like that, they need some quick maintenance. So we went to Pilot and said, let us put little maintenance shops either on your properties or adjacent to your property. And we started building those 3 years ago, and we've got about 100 now. As of last week, we had our 100th location. We need about 250. But what we have found, that it is a good little business, because fleets need something when they're driving through where they can stop, they can get something done real quick, and they can get back on the road. It's funny that Pilot Corporation, which is a mammoth $40 billion company, again with 700 travel center locations throughout this country, but they are my partner in this Southern Tire Mart at Pilot business. My brother and I own 2/3, and Pilot owns 1/3. Pilot is owned by Berkshire Hathaway, a Warren Buffett. And so it's interesting that Warren Buffett has ended up being our partner from a poor little old fella in Columbia, Mississippi. But it's worked that way. People have laughed and said, how did you get involved with him? And it was most indirect, but it has been very interesting for us. Now, when you talk to the people at Berkshire, and when you talk to Mr. Buffett, as you've seen him on TV and read his investment advice, he comes across as a real grandfatherly, nice man, wonderful to everybody. And I will tell you from my experience, financially, they can drill you right down in the ground. They know what they're doing, and they're good. But he is a classy, good fella. Now, he's 93 years old now. I remember about 2 years ago when we got started in this business, I was talking to his chief accountant, and they only have 18 people in Omaha at Berkshire, 18 people. In fact, they say if you're going to expand it, somebody's going to have to half their office or do something else because he's never going to have more than 18 people at Berkshire. So I was talking to his accounting person, and he said, Mr. Duff, he said, you realize that we own 65 companies from Burlington Northern to See's Candy. And he says, we've never been in a relationship where we're the minority partner. And I said, oh, really? And he said, we've always either owned everything ourselves or we might have a small partnership from the railroads on and on, the insurance companies. And I said, well, we got a little bit different deal here, don't we? And he said, yes. He said, I would certainly like to change that. And I said, well, I'm really not trying to change that relationship. We like where we are. We like living in Columbia, Mississippi. We like having Southern Tire based out of there. We like growing and doing. And we especially like our relationship with Berkshire. And then he stopped and he said, somebody wants to talk to you a second. And I stopped and his voice came on. He said, Mr. Duff, he said, my name is Warren. And I said, oh my. And he says, I've heard about y'all. He says, you have this relationship with us. And he says, and I was also told that I'm a minority partner in your organization. And I said, well, you're not much of a minority, Mr. Buffett, but truthfully, I guess that's the way it is. And he started talking, and he said, you know, you need to come up to Omaha and visit. You need to talk, and we need to work something out. We'd sure like to be part of you more, and y'all be involved with us more. And I appreciated all that. And I finally said, we're just not that interested in selling. I said, we love the way we operate. We love our partnership with you, and we really enjoy being together. And he says, well, will you at least commit that you'll come meet and talk and we can visit sometime about continuing our relationship and it being a better one? And I said, well, yes, sir, I'm happy to. And he said, and I'd sure like to own you. And I said, well, I'm not really interested in that, to be very blunt with you, sir. But I said, I will talk to you. And I said, we kind of made that pretty clear up front when we were doing it. And of course, he comes back around all the time. And that's okay. So we got to visit, and he finally said, well, you know, it's the people that want to sell to me are the ones we really don't want to talk to. It's the folks I go to that we kind of like, and then they turn me down, and he said that kind of makes it a little more interesting to us. And I said, well, I can understand that. And he said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I'd really love to have about 4 or 5 more years. I said, I was 66 at the time, and it's been 2 years now. And I said, so I'd like to have a little bit longer to be able to think about things and grow our business and do. And he stopped and he says, so you want 4 or 5 more years before you talk to me? And I said, yes, sir, that's really what I'd like. He stopped and he said, Mr. Duff, you do realize I'm 92 years old. I said, yes, sir, I do now. And he said, so what do you think the odds are 4 or 5 years from now I'm going to be around to discuss it with you? He said, you might want to rethink your timetable. And of course, that's typical of me. I just never even thought of something like that. And I apologize profoundly to him to say, look, laughingly, so that's the joke between us, is he's still waiting until he's 98 or 99 before we have this fine conversation. But it's amazing how you get in life involved with people that you never dreamt of and events that you never were able to have. And what a blessing that is. And I can almost say that about MDOT, the changes that y'all have had and the advantages that are coming your way. You know, there's a great respect in the legislature for you. There's a great respect by people that are involved. They understand what you do each and every day, what you fight for, what you need to get, sometimes what you don't get, and how you have to continue to go around and try to make those things happen. And I think that's pretty darn important, that we are able to see a group that is moving forward. And that's pretty important in the state. About 8 years ago, I got the opportunity to serve on the institutions of higher learning. And that was a real learning experience for me, because for the prior 30 years, I've been spending my whole life with my nose to the grindstone, trying to outwork everybody and being so grateful for the blessings that we had, that I just kept working and doing and was never very much involved in politics or state government or anything like that. But involving ourselves in the institutions of higher learning was a good experience for me, because it really brought me to how wonderful our state is. As I met people from throughout the state, as I visited and as I taught, I learned really the caliber of the people of our state and what a great place it is. You know, people would come to my brother and me for years and say, you know, y'all doing okay and wonderful, and you live in Mississippi, and they'd almost look at you like, why are you living there? And we would gladly say, well, you know, we like it here. We love being in this part. We love the state, we love the people. But as I was involved in the institutions of higher learning and visiting, I gained a greater appreciation for the goodness of our state, for people wanting to do the right things. They might not be the highest paid people, I understand that. They need to be paid more. But what I learned was that good people care and they want this state to move forward. And I'm talking to the people that make this state move forward. And again, I appreciate that. Because as we grow as a state, we learn a lot of things. I spent about 8 years working hard on education. And I can tell you that in our colleges and universities, you receive a good education in Mississippi. You do it for about 30% less than what the other states charge. But when we look at how our students compete in national rankings, Mississippi is right there. So you're getting a good education at our institutions, and I'm very grateful for that. But you know, after about 7 or 8 years, it began to dawn on me when I looked around and saw that of the college graduates, of the 23,000 that will graduate every year from our institutions, in 3 years, half of them work somewhere else, not in the state. And I got to thinking, what an indictment of our state. And then I got to looking even further, and I found out I was one of the most guilty people in the room. In our organizations, we probably hire at least 50 college graduates a year from all the institutions in the state and love it. And while I'm not interviewing and hiring them, I do get to visit, and we have these little seminars when they come on board, and then we have one in 6 months and one a year, and actually 2 years afterward. And I got to, when I talk to them, I get to saying, you know, where do you want to live? Why'd you come to work with us? What do you want out of your life? And I learn a lot. The first thing I've learned is I have never had, and I hate to say this, when we bring in these college graduates, I say, where do you want to live? I've never had anybody say, I want to live in Hattiesburg, or I want to live in Jackson, or I want to live in Greenville, or whatever. And I get to thinking, that's where you're from. That's where you were raised. But they all obviously want to live in Nashville, or Birmingham, or Atlanta, or Austin, and all those things. And so we are losing our young people and our graduates to these other states. In fact, I used to think Nashville ought to send us a check every month for all the students that we educate to go live in Tennessee and seem to do well there. And that concerns me. That concerns me. We have got to have a state of opportunity. And it's got to be, even though things are doing really well on the Gulf Coast and it's growing and progressing, why is it not progressing and doing in the Mississippi Delta? Why is Mississippi, of the southeastern states, have a population not growing, have an economy that's not staying up with the southeastern states? Those are the things that we've got to be concerned about in this room, because we have children, we have grandchildren. We want them to grow and progress and to live in this state where they can raise families, where they can pay taxes, where they can develop our state. And that's important. We have got to do that. And it's something that has really hit me pretty hard, that not only do we have this problem, I'm one of the ones leading the charge to send them out of state. And that's embarrassing. And we've got to do better if we're going to continue to move this state forward. I live and travel in the southeastern states many, many times, frankly, a month. I travel throughout the country. But Mississippi is special. It has quality people. It has honorable people. It has people that want to work and do things right, raise their families right, and live a good life like that. And that's what we need to encourage. I have found that when we bring people into our state, things happen. I noticed when we were working hard to get industries into our state, And we were one of the ones that met with Yokohama because we're their largest dealer in the country, and would go and visit with them in Japan. And frankly, the man looked at me and said, "Where is Mississippi?" And I had to show him. But I said, if you will put a plan in Mississippi, you will prosper because of it. There's one in West Point today. It has 600 people working there. We did the same thing with Continental Tire and their Clinton plant. They didn't know where Mississippi was, being Germans, but they found out, they came, they like it, and we want them to expand and do things. But that's just something that each business in the state can do. Who are you doing business with? Who are your customers? What can you do to be able to develop the state? And we don't need big home runs. We need singles and doubles, bringing in a business, doing things. Now, you're never going to do that if you don't have decent transportation system through this state. We do, and it's getting better. And I want to thank you for that, because the prosperity of our state is going to depend upon education, it's going to depend upon economic activity, and it's going to depend upon our transportation system. So I just wanted to visit, I wanted to just talk to you a little bit today, and I'm grateful for this opportunity, Brad, but respectfully, y'all are the backbone, and I respect you for that, and I appreciate what each and every one of you do, because it's pretty darn important for the progress of our state. So I just wanted to tell you, I'm grateful for visiting with you. I'm grateful to be a citizen of this state, and God bless America and God bless Mississippi. Thank you very much.